I'm trying to get serious in order to talk about an event that occurred this week that is inherent to the art world and that I found profoundly shocking. Before I begin to talk about it, I must say that all opinions I am about to express are my own, and I've tried to keep up with news about it, but it's particularly difficult considering that the coronavirus is taking up so much of good press space. And that means that some things are just widely ignored left and right, including this thing that I'm going to talk about, which I fear. I'm absolutely certain that has not been talked about enough. But it actually serves as an example. There's a lot of similar events of this type that are happening and have been happening for some times. But look, let me just get to it. On the 2nd or 3rd of April, I'm uncertain about the date because different sources say different things. A Turkish musician named Helin Bolek died after a prolonged hunger strike. She was a member of the left-wing Turkish band Grup Yorum, and the band announced her death as the death of a martyr. Now, Grup Yorum is actually a major band in Turkey. They first formed in 1985 and are known for their protest songs. They also strongly oppose the ideals of Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his party. And as a result, they're basically blacklisted, if not downright considered a terrorist organization. Now, Grup Yorum has been known to have links to the outlaw Revolutionary People's Liberation Party Front, which is designated as a terrorist organization by Turkey, but also by the United States and the European Union. This would seem to complicate a reading of the situation, especially because the death has occurred at a time when, like I said, the media is so wrapped up in its coverage of the coronavirus to the point where it's easy for these things to slip under the radar. Plus, over the past 2 years, there have been the group's cultural centre has been raided by the police more than 10 times, and a total of 30 people have been arrested. So it's an ugly situation, but I honestly struggle to ever side with a tyrant like Erdogan, who has shown time and time again that his totalitarian leanings and his almost complete disregard of human rights are just nothing short of, I'm going to say it, evil. We could also get into a whole spiel about how he has cheated the European Union out of funding for aid during the migrant crisis and his overall demeanour as a benevolent bully. But I'll focus instead on the freedom of expression side of things because I know that these things are complicated. And as crazy as it sounds, even though I have no admiration for a person like Erdogan, I understand that it's a tough situation overall. And they have had trouble of their own. And they do have motivation for their actions. But their actions are just totally crazy, in my opinion. I'm not going to, I need to stay focused. So I'm just going to say another reason why I side with Grup Yorum on this whole situation is because aside from the fact that as a great believer and supporter of legitimate democratic systems, I just don't see a hunger strike that lasts hundreds of days as an eccentric act. Strange as it may seem, there are people out there who are so fatigued that they see it this way. I mean, I'm talking about pure compassion fatigue. But that's not the truth. I mean, to me, it's almost impossible to not have at least one proper meal a day. And if I don't have breakfast every day, I get cranky. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm so first world, it's unreal. So it would be incredibly hypocritical for me to even suggest that I know what Helin Bolek and the other members of the band who decided to undertake this protest went through. In fact, to define this act as a hunger strike is not right. This was a death fast, during which medical assistance was offered but refused. And Bolek's death has been announced by the group as the death of a martyr. And I strengthen that because, again, martyrdom has some really powerful connotations when discussed in the context of the Arab world. And even Turkey, which officially identifies itself as half European and half Arab. Nonetheless, The mission of this death fast was to call an end to police raids and for the removal of Grup Yorum members from the grey list, and an end to the ban of its concerts and the dropping of charges and the release of all Grup Yorum members, because there's quite a few of them that have been arrested and are currently behind bars. So these pleas were largely ignored, and as a result, the government, as an artist's death to account for. I mean, there's no better way of putting it, and there's no lighter way of putting it. Again, I must say that information on this is scarce at the moment, and this is a fact that is worrying in itself, and has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of the media in Turkey is censored. But already in the previous episode, I have highlighted how the current coronavirus situation is threatening democracies and human rights. One of the ways in which we are able to protect these is via the free press, and right now the press has shown little concern for anything outside of the pandemic in territories that are not censored. So I'm not saying that the pandemic is not important enough to deserve this attention. I'm saying that there are also other things happening that are worthy of being talked about. And the death of Helin Bolek strikes me as deeply sad. I mean, it's the latest example of suppressed freedom of artistic expression. Last week I mentioned Ai Weiwei, who has been all but blacklisted by the Chinese government for exposing the world to its lack of concern for human rights, but also the country's lack of freedom of artistic expression and lack of freedom of expression in general. And this death shows that the same thing is happening elsewhere. And look, no matter what way you look at it, there's nothing good about it.